It looks like it's going to be live streaming in 1 second. You just got to give me a moment to be able to mute the YouTube video on my screen or I'll have an echo. So
That's
one
fine.
moment.
Take one more second for people to pop in.
Okay, I'm ready whenever you are, Madam Chair.
All right, I'm going to call our meeting to order at 7:08 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see here. The next order of business is attendance. Madam Secretary, if you don't mind, can you do roll call?
Yes, and I think I've been remiss and not letting our unofficial assistant secretary know of these meetings. That's my fault. I will get in touch with him. Ms. McCardle.
Present.
Mr. Watkins.
Here.
Mr. Hagopian.
Here.
I am present. Mr. Blankenship.
Present.
Mr. Bowen.
Here.
I have Mr. Nikela as on a plane and absent. Mr. Rufo. I saw him. Let's see if he's still here. Mr. Rufo, I see you.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm here. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. Okay, I lost my spot quickly. Ms. Yanuskavich. Here. I show Mr. Benner and Mr. Dassing as absent. Mr. Duque.
Here.
Mr. Ford.
Here.
Ms. Gabbard.
Here.
Mr. Malagon.
Present.
Mr. Nana.
I'm here.
We have noted that Mr. Tunyevich is absent. Mr. Clark. Okay, he is not here. Mr. Cowan.
Present.
Have Mr. Hall as absent. Mr. Hirsch.
Here.
Hirsch. Got it. Mr. Hyman.
I'm here.
Ms. Jones.
I'm here.
Ms. Redpath.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Redpath.
Yes, here.
Okay, did I say miss at first?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you do seem very ladylike today. So
Well, thank you. That's a high compliment.
and as staff, I only show Ms. Houston, and we also have Mr. Brown, the parliamentarian. So, Madam Chair, at large absent is Mr. Nikela. Regionals that are absent are Mr. Benner, Mr. Dassing, and Mr. Tunyevich, which means that Mr. Cowan, Mr. Hyman, and Mr. Redpath will be serving as regionals. Alternates that are absent is Mr. Clark and Mr. Hall and Mr. Penke.
All right.
Otto is requesting the link. I'm going to go ahead and send him the link. He'll join us here shortly.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, before we jump into opportunity for public comment, I guess, actually, we'll do it at the end. I'm going to remind a couple of you to make announcements. So go to the bottom of the screen. I see Nathan Madden already knows the drill. At the bottom of the screen, you will see reactions, or you will see more and then reactions. If you're interested in giving public comment, go ahead and click reactions and see that little raise hand function. Please hit that for me so that I know who wants to comment. See a couple of hands up. Okay, we're gonna get those hands up. You have 2 minutes to give public comment. Please help me help you and go ahead and keep track of the amount of time you speak so that I don't have to cut you off, because I hate doing that to anyone.
Mr. Dusseldorf just arrived.
There we go. Fantastic, Mr. Dusseldorf. Okay, Mr. Nathan Madden, thank you for joining us. Let us know what state you're in, and please go right ahead and share your thoughts.
Hi, my name is Nathan Madden. I am from the great state 48, Arizona. I have a couple of things to say, so I just want to get this out of the way. I'd like to welcome Mr. Redpath, the legendary veteran of ballot access. You coming back to the LNC is a great thing, and I thank you for that. Aside from that, I'll do my usual shilling for the CRM, lp.org/CRM. Please donate. It is the most powerful tool that we have as a party. And when properly functioning, of course, that is what we need. We need funding for it. So that's what makes it function. And aside from that, I just want the LNC to take into consideration some way of bringing on more technically inclined people into their volunteer corps. Just kind of make the process more efficient so that they have an easier time of assisting when they need to, whether that be through policy changes or whatever's needed. Because I believe even the CTO has stated that it's currently quite difficult. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Madden. Up next, we have Mr. Hector Roos. Mr. Roos, please let us all know, remind us what state you're from, and go right ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the LNC. I'm Hector Roos, a sustaining member from Florida. I want to applaud the efforts of this body for setting fundraising goals for first time in recent memory and for working to keep operating costs or overhead of the LNC to or under $80,000, matching our current fundraising levels. Let me encourage you with a little wisdom that money isn't the only thing. Rather, how you use money effectively is everything. For instance, if someone has $1,000 left in the bank and that covers their expenses for the next month, the rule is not to use this money on unessential investment. Instead, this is the money you buy food and eat with. You can never go wrong putting this money to maintain or improve yourself. With that said, I'm extremely pleased to read the chair's State of the Party report and see the chair's commitment to transparency, both in the internal and external activities of the LNC. This is especially true as internally the LNC transitions into its own fundraising program, which was severely disrupted before the Reno Convention, and externally commits to coordinating with our political parties, with other political parties on ballot access, especially given the new energy that's been brought in by the Forward Party, which has invigorated involvement and attention into a third lane in American politics from non-legacy political parties. The biggest barriers we face are legal monopolistic barriers that give a competitive advantage to legacy political parties. Without such protections, libertarians around the world are being elected to office in significant numbers, which reminds me to report the good news about Javier Milei, Argentina's libertarian candidate for president, who is leading in national polls against two legacy political parties. Except in America, the Western world holds elections that recognizes proportional representation instead of winner take all. With this said, I hope the LNC succeeds and that we maintain our 50 state ballot access. I hope the LNC can limit its spending in unessential IP trademark lawsuits. I hope the LNC can report on significant coordination with other political parties on ballot access. And I hope the LNC can work with developing legal strategy at a state level and hope to be able to workshop with LNC council and board members who are interested in participating. I hope the fundraising efforts can significantly exceed the operational cost overhead of the LNC. And finally, I hope we can make time in and out of meetings to report on all the good things happening in the LP. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. Up next, we have Mr. Michael Paco. Mr. Paco, please share what state you're in and go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Paco, I'm the chair of LP Arkansas. I see that ballot access is on the agenda tonight, so I thought I'd give you a brief update from the front lines here in Arkansas. We've been collecting signatures for our petition drive for about 6 weeks now. We've got a volunteer network all set up. We've collected about 2,000 signatures, mostly volunteer. Given current validity checks, that works out to be about 15% of what our total needed. We're seeing that we need to pick up the pace over the next several weeks. So we've been focusing on fundraising and we're bringing in paid petitioners as we speak. So things are going to be ramping up over the next several weeks. I just wanted to conclude by thanking Mr. Nana and the Ballot Access Committee for their encouragement and support. And special thanks to Bill Redpath for coming down to Arkansas to help us kick off our drive a few weeks ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paco. Up next, we have LNC members. And let's see, we're gonna go to our secretary first because she had her hand up, then Mr. Nan, and then Mr. Hagopian, and then I might have a thing or two to remind people of. Go right ahead, Madam Secretary.
Hey, just kind of following up on Nathan's inspirational speech on assisting the party. So I'd encourage everyone who is not presently a life member to consider becoming a life member. That price hasn't gone up in a while. With inflation, who knows what can happen? So it's probably a bargain right now. Also, please go to the homepage. I want to thank the staff for the very good work that they did on getting the convention theme contest up. We have like 30 entries, which is phenomenal. Please go and vote on the entries because you can have a huge say. Well, actually, the members will have the say on what our convention theme is going to be. And if you can't afford at this time to become a life member, but you're not a sustaining member, I'd ask that you'd consider that. And I've offered to sponsor one person at least who, just talk to me privately. If you can't afford it, there's no shame in that at this time. Everybody's going through hard times. And lastly, something I'd want to say that's kind of been a theme, and I know not everyone will agree with me, and that's okay. I am used to that. With some of the stresses that the party's gone through and some of the rhetoric that's gone back and forth, I want to remind everyone that at least my attitude, and I think the attitude of a lot of people on the LNC, is that we're going through
Gifts.
a rebuilding phase. The party face planted during COVID and we destroyed ourselves as far as I'm concerned. And I ask for patience, support, and assistance while we are trying to regain our integrity as the voice for liberty in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Harlows. Up next, we have Mr. Nana. Go right ahead.
Thank you. So just one brief announcement. The Libertarian Party of Ohio is hosting a regional conference in July, the end of July, July 28th through the 30th. We welcome you out. We're going to have a lot of great speakers. Don Rainwater, Jeff Moore, our very own Karen Ann Harlows, some other former LNC members and current members in Ohio, Chair of Indiana, Evan McMahon, et cetera. And we're also going to have some training. The National Party is sponsoring the Leadership Institute to come out to these regional events. So the Leadership Institute will be there as well. And we're hopeful that we can get a sitting representative from Ohio there too. That's not in stone yet, but we will see. And we'll also have a bunch of coalition partners there as well. So I will post the link for tickets in the chat here, but we would love to see you come out, whether or not you are in Region 3. It'll be in Dayton, Ohio at the Hope Hotel and Conference Center. So I hope to see you there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nana. Up next, we have Mr. Hagopian.
Yep, I just wanted to give a quick shout out for a OKLP member. Tulsa is one of the largest cities where we have an elected city council person, Libertarian. Mr. Grant Miller will be kicking off his re-election campaign next week. And if anybody wants to get involved or contribute to a very important race for the party in a very large city, feel free to get a hold of me and I can get you more information. Thank you.
Great. Couple of housekeeping items on my end. We are definitely taking volunteers of all stripes. If you're interested in that, please reach out to us. You can just fill out the contact all form at the bottom if you have anything that you want to share with additional LNC members, or you can just message me directly, chair@lp.org. We are also advertising right now that hey everybody, please mute. We also have a couple of internships left to fill. We have filled one, which is really great. I'd like to see us get a couple more going early in June. So if you know any young people who are interested in helping with political activism in the grassroots area or in social media and communications, please reach out. Last announcement is a reminder from Liz Del Signore, the IS committee chair, that she needs backup contact information for all of you. She is doing the Lord's work, trying to help us move from G Suite over to Microsoft. So let's make sure that we get her the information she needs. If there's any questions on that, you can also contact Mr. Duque. Mr. Duque, did I miss anything on that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, no, just there's the form that she emailed us. All she's asking for is our first and last name and phone number and email. It's very brief.
Yep. So let's get that to her. If not, Miguel and I are just gonna send her what we've got tomorrow, but in case you're a new member and didn't get it, make sure that you get in touch with one of us so that we can make sure you're all connected on that data thing. Okay, that concludes the end of announcements and public comment. Let's move to the next item on our agenda, which is an item noticed by Ms. Harlos, approved 517 special meeting minutes. Ms. Harlos, when you are ready.
I was on mute. I apologize.
It's okay.
There were some corrections to the April 17th, 2023 minutes. Funny enough, it's a one-page set of minutes, and it seems like the one-pagers, like, how can you have so many corrections on one page? I could do a 100-page set of minutes with one correction. We're on version 5 of a one-page set of minutes, but rather than it going through the auto approval process, which would take longer, now that we've got all the changes done, I'm moving to approve the April 17th, 2023 LNC minutes, version 5.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the, oh my gosh, did you say April 17th?
Yes, it was that special meeting called by Mr. Nikela.
It says 517.
Did I put April 17 here?
No,
I'm
you
very,
said April. It's May, right?
it's May.
It's May. Okay.
It's May. I get those 2 months confused in my head. It's like how Stephanie and Jennifer are the same name to me. I don't know why. If you're a Stephanie or a Jennifer, I will call you one or the other.
That's okay.
Autism.
It's in writing the correct way. I'm just making sure that there wasn't another meeting that I forgot about. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve those meeting minutes, version 5. Any objections to approving those minutes? Going once, going twice. Hearing no objection. Those meeting minutes are adopted. And thank you very much, Ms. Harlos, for putting that on there. And thank you everyone for taking care of it quickly. All right, next up is ballot access committee update. Now we've got 10 minutes on the agenda. I anticipate that this could go over longer. Mr. Watkins, do you mind keeping time and letting us know when 10 minutes are up so we can extend it if we need to?
Yep, already got it ready.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Mr. Nana, go right ahead.
Sure, thank you. I'm going to make it actually as brief as I can and then give some time for questions. So the most important thing we've got going on right now, or I guess maybe not the most important, the most immediate thing is, as Mr. Paco said, the ballot access drive in Arkansas. We identified Arkansas very early on as a state that we thought we could get full party access in this year. So we've been working with Mr. Paco and some other folks to make sure that we can achieve this rather quickly. Mr. Paco alluded to the fact that they've already got 2,000 signatures. Later on after this meeting, in the executive committee meeting that was called after this, you'll see a motion, which is the recommendation of the ballot access committee to help fund the rest of this drive. So I hope you will consider and pass that motion. But we are very optimistic about this drive. We think it's a slam dunk. So, you know, if there are any questions, feel free to ask me or Mr. Paco, but everything seems to be on track there so far. The other thing we have going on right now is in Tennessee. We have a litigation opportunity. I believe Mr. Redpath and Mr. Winger were approached by an attorney, Mr. Linger, who thought that we could challenge Tennessee's ballot access laws. And so we are going to do that, or at least we're recommending.
Okay, pause 1 second. Guys, make sure you're muted. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. We have recommended that we go half and half with Tennessee on this drive, or on this effort, up to $4,000. So it'll be up to $4,000 for each side, depending on where we end. Could be 2,000 a piece, could be 3,000 a piece, etc. But we think that this is a very good opportunity based on case law out of Michigan. So we figured it was a fairly low investment for what we could get out of it. As you know, Ohio has terrible ballot access laws, and that is also in the 6th Circuit. So it might start a domino, at least here in this circuit and possibly beyond, to knocking down some of these terrible barriers to ballot access. Other than that, states that we have talked to or are talking to, I had a meeting with Maine on a possible registration drive. At this time, the main party is not interested in collaborating with us. So we probably will not be pursuing that unless they change their mind. The other state that we have been talking about is North Dakota. North Dakota's ballot access drive we think is easily attainable. But I need to talk to the chair there. One of our members, Andy Jacobs, has talked to the chair there. And it seems that they want to do a volunteer-led effort. I don't believe that a volunteer effort is going to get it done there. They've tried it in the past and failed. So I need to talk to the chair and see if I can convince him to accept our help. But we think we can get that one done as well. Aside from other states that might have ongoing litigation that I can't really go into, that's pretty much all of the stuff that's going on right now on the ground or in the future. As a committee, we are also creating a best practices document, which we hope to be able to circulate out to states and members so that they can understand what it takes to do a petition drive and just kind of a petitioning sheet for dummies, which is a continuing live document that we've been working on for a while now. The Ballot Access Committee, we meet bi-weekly, usually on Mondays, schedules permitting. So, you're welcome to attend if you'd like. And I will, if you want to message me privately or message ballotaccess@lp.org, you can always request the agenda from me. But that's what's going on right now. If there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Great. I do have a question. Did the Tennessee chair make any comment as to whether or not he's interested in doing this?
Yeah, we actually talked to their chair and their vice chair on a Zoom call, myself, Mr. Redpath, Mr. Winger, and those two gentlemen. And then the vice chair from the party actually attended our last ballot access committee meeting and helped us craft language for that lawsuit, for the relief for the lawsuit. So their biggest concern was just that, they're don't want to expend all of their money in the bank account on this. They wanted to make sure that they had some help. So, we were here to offer the help that they need.
Okay, great.
They're absolutely on board.
And then can you tell me, Arkansas is underway now. You would like to get started on North Dakota. Is that the next state you want to start, or is there another state?
Yeah, that would appear to be the next state that we were going to start. That we wanted to try to do Maine, but since Maine is not interested at this time, North Dakota would be next on the list. We need to, if we're going to do North Dakota, get it wrapped up before it gets cold. It gets cold up there a little earlier than in other places. So yes, that's the next one.
And how long do you know, or like roughly would the drive last up there?
I don't really know unless we figure out what the plan. The state has not submitted a concrete plan to us yet. We're really early on in the stages of North Dakota.
How many signatures do they need?
I believe it's 7,500. Mr. Redpath can correct me if I'm wrong.
7,000, but there's no voter registration in North Dakota. It is unique among states like that. 8,000 gross SIGs will get it done for sure.
Okay, so when you say there's no voter registration, does that mean there's no data to be obtained anywhere, or we just can't get it from the state?
I'm sorry, what's that question?
When you say there's no voter registration data, does that mean we can't get it anywhere, or it's just we can't get it from the state of North Dakota?
There is no voter registration in North Dakota.
You don't have to register to vote.
People do not have to register to vote in North Dakota. It is unique. That is the only state where that is the case. So that means that the validity rate is going to be almost by definition extremely high.
Great.
And that's why 8,000 gross SIGs will certainly get it done to get 7,000 net.
Are there any other states where there is no voter registration?
No,
one.
It is unique among all states.
And you could win one day, one of you guys are going to be on Jeopardy, and that question's going to come up and you're going to be like, I learned that.
And then can you tell me, Mr. Redpath or Mr. Nana, is there a state that you're thinking about doing after North Dakota, or any other state that you want to at least start before the end of the year?
Well, the other one would be one that we potentially are waiting on litigation to see whether or not it's going to have to be done. I assume you know what I'm talking about.
I do. Okay, great. And then everything else is going to be 2024?
The only other state that we've talked about doing this year would be possibly Ohio. We talked about it very, very briefly at the last ballot access committee meeting. That's a state that we can actually petition for the independent candidate. this year, most states, you have to do it after this general election at least. Ohio is one of the ones that we could theoretically do.
Okay, and so.
Pardon me,
Bill-
that just to be sure, to put a fine point on that, we can't start that until
Oh,
November. Dustin, is that correct?
you look very nice today, man.
All right, everybody, make sure you're muted, please.
Okay. It's
Uh,
nice to see you, lady.
Okay, 1 second, everybody. We good? Okay, sorry,
sorry.
Mr. Redpath.
I was going to say, Dustin, I mean, we can't start Ohio until sometime in November, I think. Is that correct?
So it's actually very unclear in the law, and I actually believe we can start it. We're actually already in the process of filling out the petition in Ohio. We have a selected president and vice president candidate. We'll have to do substitution there, obviously, which is what we've done in the past, so we know that it's legal. But we have to fill out our slate of electors, et cetera. But we actually think we can do it before November. So we're going to seek clarification, obviously, from the Secretary of State, but I believe we've started it before November in the past. Now, this is going back way before my involvement, so I would have to confirm, but we are in the process of at least getting names on paper. So I believe Mr. Jacobs, I believe is correct. Kentucky can't be started until November, their independent drive.
Okay, can't be started till November. And then back to North Dakota real quick. If we were to split signature gathering costs 50-50, do either of you have an estimate of what the upper range would be that the LNC would be asked to cover?
If we split it 50-50 and we get 8,000 raw signatures, let's say 8,000 times 5, which is what, 40,000 divided by 2, 20,000 with absolutely zero volunteer effort if we split it 50-50.
Okay, so $20,000 with zero volunteer effort would be the ceiling. Okay, great.
And I've heard, by the way, that the North Dakota party has 17 or 18 grand in the bank. And I don't know if that is the total amount or if that's the amount available for this petition drive. That's what I've heard.
That's a lot of money.
That's time on the item.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have any questions for the ballot access committee?
I do.
Yes.
My question is.
Okay, who's asking right now?
Madam Chair, point of personal privilege.
Yes.
We may want to remove a member with the name Manu Chopra for interruption.
Got it.
Yes, we're in stereo.
Trying to find that. Oh, here we go.
It
Okay,
looks nice.
we're gonna remove Manu Chopra. I'm so sorry we're removing you. We're not gonna block you. We're just gonna remove.
Or I don't know if it's Lori Stacy. I'm sorry if I'm mistaking who is speaking.
No,
up.
it's Manu Chopra. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
we're
correct,
removing you.
yeah.
I think it got removed. Removed, gone?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, sorry about that interruption, everyone. Okay, our executive director has a question about ballot access. If there's no objection, I'd like to hear that. Oh, wait, before we do that, I'm so sorry. Time expired on this item.
I would move to extend for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to extend time on this agenda item for 5 minutes. Any objections? Going once, going twice, hearing none. Time is extended by 5 minutes. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Houston.
Awesome. Thanks. I can keep this really quick. I just wanted to remind the committee, and I'm happy to take this offline with the ballot access committee, that we, at the beginning of the year, we kicked off our season with some partnership with the Libertarian Party of Montana. And I believe we have some matters that are outstanding there. So would love to, bring that up whenever the next time is, and we don't have to get into it now. If someone from the ballot access committee could let me know what the next invite is, I would love to attend and kind of go through all of that then, or we'd be happy to discuss it now, but I think we just have a couple of budgeting items to talk through there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, we can talk about it now if you'd like, or you can get with me and then also join the meeting, whatever works. But This is the first time I am hearing about it, so I am kind of curious.
Yeah, I will follow up with you offline, Dustin. I think this goes under the political strategy category. So let's do that offline. But just a
Perfect.
friendly
Thank you.
reminder. Yep. Thanks.
Okay, and I got a note that we should follow up with the Tennessee chair about the costs for this and some of the logistics on some more sensitive things. So I'll remind Mr. Nana to definitely put in a word to Josiah Baker. The other thing I'm going to remind the ballot access committee of it is that if you have anything that you want out to go out as in an email, if you have any requests for staff to fundraise on ballot access, the sooner you get them out, the better. So as soon as you know about North Dakota and when everything's happening, like let's get that over to staff right away. Same as if there's anything that needs to be sent out, like an appeal for Arkansas, so that we don't have to rush at the last minute, because I want them to be able to do the best job possible, because these things are really important.
Yes, my thought would be that we would wait until it was officially approved. Not that I think it won't be, but I wanted to make sure it's actually going to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, but once it is approved, don't be shy, message us so that we know to give you priority, a slot in the calendar.
And on the contrary, I think advance notice, even pre-approval, is actually more helpful. So that's great. But thanks for always letting us know if this is a pre-approval thing in the mix versus something that is official and a formal proposal.
Okay, any other questions about ballot access? If not, we're going to hop on to our next agenda item. Going once, going twice. Okay, next item is LNC Vacancy Convention Oversight Committee by Mr. Bowen for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think we'll use the 10 minutes up for this particular item, but I'll be happy to use the time to answer any questions anybody has. There is one LNC board member vacancy on the Convention Oversight Committee. That was due to Mr. Hagopian's resignation at our last in-person meeting. He had some issues with time constraints, especially at meeting nights. Although Todd has stayed involved, and especially on the financial and budget side, he is continuing to help. I will let everyone know that we are meeting right now every other Wednesday, and we will at some point in the future begin to meet every Wednesday as the convention comes closer. So if you are interested in helping with the convention, if you have any skills in terms of events, in terms of any type of hospitality, we'd like to use that experience that you have, and would ask that you reach out to me or any member of the convention committee or the chair or the secretary who are ex officio members, and let us know, and we will make it happen. Couple of quick things. Ms. Harlow's talked about the theme contest that is up and running. I expect the next steps in the process will be we're actually less than 1 year away now. So the hotel link should be available shortly for you to make your reservations at the hotel. And you'll begin to see some information on purchases for the convention, that being sponsorships, vendor tables. And the first thing I think you're going to see is we are going to offer an all-inclusive package to basically every event that goes on at the convention. Keep an eye out for that. And then after that, there will be some intermediate packages that will also be offered as they have in the past. So with that, I will open it up for questions, or if any of my fellow board members have anything to add, raise your hand and feel free to add it.
Does anyone want to join the convention committee? Not pressuring you, I just want to know. If none, I think we're going to go to our secretary and then Mr. Nana.
Yeah, well, that was kind of going to be my question. It needs to be filled by an LNC member. We have nearly all of the LNC here, and I would be very interested if someone is interested in filling it. We need to fill this. So if anyone is interested, please let me know. Second thing is since we did authorize subordinate committees, there is the Convention Memorial Committee. They need volunteers. If anyone is interested in helping them, what they're going to be doing is putting together video memorials for libertarians that have passed away since our last convention that will be played during breaks and things like that. We've already had a few names submitted. If you can't volunteer, get in touch with me. I'll put you in touch with the chair of that subordinate committee if there's someone in your state, because we don't know the names of all the special people in your states, and we want to remember everyone. We don't want to leave out anyone.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Nana?
Yeah, first of all, thank you to Mr. Bowen and the rest of the committee for their tireless work in setting up this event, which I know will be a huge success. My request was, Mr. Bowen, could you possibly drop the link for the theme contest in the chat?
Just did that, Dustin. We're good to go, and I encourage everyone to go check them out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lainey.
Okay, Mr. Malibone?
I just have a quick question for Mr. Bone. What's the time commitment for the Convention Oversight Committee?
As I said, meeting wise, we'll meet once a week on a Wednesday night. I would expect that the amount definitely is variable. It goes up as we get closer to the convention. I will tell you, as chair, I'm probably spending at least a couple hours a day on convention issues. That doesn't mean that everybody has to spend a couple hours a day, but I would say, if each person can spend a few hours a week on that, maybe do an hour in an evening, every evening or every other evening, I think that will go a long way, as opposed to kind of waiting until things sort of back up and then trying to do, hours of work. So there's pretty much a process. We know what has to be done now, what can be done in the next month or two, what can be done a few months from convention. Then I would say that, the month before the convention, it will definitely be, a lot of that. It is a lot of time, but it is also very rewarding work. Seeing it actually, through the process and holding the convention is just a great feeling. It was for me the last time, and I know it will be this time.
Cool, thank you. Just wanted to get a gauge on that.
I want to encourage any members who are fairly new to the LNC, if you don't have overwhelming time commitments, this is a great committee to join. If you're a state chair, if you're already on a lot of committees, I understand not wanting to join this. It is quite the task for someone who already has a lot of tasks, but it is really rewarding. And like Rich said, it's also really important. If we can't fill this within the next couple of weeks, I think we should consider a policy manual amendment to lower the threshold of LNC members and potentially open this up to other members of the party. Okay, if there's nothing else on this agenda item, there's no nominations.
There's a
once.
couple
Yep.
hands, Madam Chair.
Oh, there they go. They just popped right up. Sorry. Mr. Nana, go ahead.
And I actually saw his hand go up after me, so maybe we're on the same page, but I know Mr. Hirsch is new to the committee and isn't on any subcommittees yet. I don't know if it's something he would have the time or be interested in, but I know Mr. Hirsch is a very hard worker, and I think he'd be great for the committee if he wanted to do it.
And I know he's also going to be there at 7:30 a.m. because I got that out of him in a phone call earlier today on Friday. So he would be there for the Convention Oversight Committee planning at the convention site. Yes, I am putting you on the spot, Greg.
Okay, I'm gonna go slightly out of order so we can hear from Mr. Hirsch.
Okay, thank you. Yep, I'm just gonna actually volunteer to be on the convention committee. I was once the convention chairman of the Indiana State Party Convention Committee a couple of times, so I have some experience with it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Mr. Duque, did you have any other nominations?
I actually don't, and I had just raised my hand before Mr. Hirsch spoke up, because I was going to say that I'd be supportive of Angela's, idea of opening it up to non-LNC members. And again, that's nothing against Mr. Hirsch. That was just because I kind of already thought that would be a good idea, because I think we'd get various interested parties, who aren't already. I can see that a lot of LNC members, are they have a lot of commitments stacked up, but Mr. Hirsch being new isn't already on a committee, so I understand that as well.
Okay, great. Okay, so we've got a nomination. Any other nominations? Madam Secretary.
I was just going to move to appoint Mr. Hirsch to the Convention Oversight Committee.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Mr. Hirsch to the Convention Oversight Committee. Hearing no other nominations, are there any objections to this appointment? Going once, going twice, hearing no objections, you are appointed. Congratulations and thank you very much. Just be sure to coordinate with Mr. Nana once the call is over. I'll note there's a couple of other convention committee members, or I'm sorry, not Mr. Nana, Mr. Bowen. I was looking at the wrong committee. Who else is on? We've got Miguel Duque, who are our other LNC members who are on that committee right now.
And Dustin Blankenship.
Justin Blankenship. Okay, there we go. Okay, so those are your LNC points of contact. Okay, let's go on to our next agenda item, if that's all right. It's update on DC and meeting reservations by our secretary.
Yeah, that's now live. So just so that everyone knows, the link to make your reservations is online, and I also posted the beginnings of the OneNote. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. And also these are, I mean, for DC, it's not expensive, but compared to other rates, these are a little bit higher. It might be a good idea. Kathy and I always room together, but other people might want to consider that. So to reduce costs, I know a lot of people think about staying off-site, considering this is the convention site. I highly encourage LNC members, if you can afford to stay on site. Just being there, you will get a feel and see potential problems that you will not get just by attending the meeting.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. The next agenda item that we have is parliamentarians by Mr. Watkins. Mr. Watkins, do you need any of this to take place in executive session, or is it something we can talk about openly?
I'm not sure. I guess it's kind of what everybody else might think. Because
So why don't you open with just a general overview, and then if we feel the need to, we can rise into executive session. We
Sure.
could also, depending on how everyone else feels, move to amend the agenda and push this to the end so that we could talk about it in the end. What do you
Sure.
guys think? Is that a good way to handle it?
I don't think it's going to require executive session, Madam Chair.
Why don't we just hear his opening statement and see what it's about?
All right, let's go for it.
Yeah. So I think we talked about this a little while ago, and we were kind of talking about wanting to get a number of parliamentarians that we can have a dialogue with to assist states where issues have popped up, similar to Virginia and New Mexico and so on. I know Mr. Jacobs and Karen Ann have helped a lot with those states, and so far it seems like that isn't really happening anymore at this moment. Knock on wood that doesn't happen again. But I just think it would be a good idea to have some kind of, I don't know what this would look like, a deal that if a state affiliate decides to revamp their bylaws and just kind of close up some loopholes, things like that, that they could have there's already a relationship with other parliamentarians so that they don't really have to go looking very hard to find one, if that makes sense. I don't know what that would look like if we're like splitting costs or whatever. I guess we could spend more time brainstorming that in executive session if necessary, but I have talked to, I think, about 9 or 10 on the phone a little while ago, maybe 2-3 months ago. I don't even remember at this point. And just kind of gave them an overview about kind of what has been happening, and
Right.
everybody that I've talked to seemed on board with it. I didn't go into specifics about what any sort of contracts or deals would look like, but everybody was kind of on board and willing to help.
Okay, a hand went up and I don't know which hand went first.
Mr. Hagopian was first.
Okay, Mr. Hagopian.
Yeah, I will be brief. I was just going to mention that Madam Chair and I had talked about this idea, I think, in our run up to the election. If we did it, it probably would have to go into the budget if it's something that we support. So there's kind of two ways to do this. One, you pay for it, or you negotiate a nationwide deal, which we've done for other things on the LNC 4 states in the past. And that's probably where I would lean if we did anything in the near term. Thanks.
Got it. Madam Secretary.
Yes, my view on this is that I think the LNC should have a list of parliamentarians that are qualified, have experience in political parties, and we just provide that list. I don't suggest we get into paying anybody. I think that creates a huge conflict of interest, and I think actually parliamentarians would have a problem with that. It would create an ethical quandary. But I do think sometimes state parties in trouble just don't know where to turn, and they just go and Google and they find somebody who might have a lot of experience with homeowners associations or something like that, and not really political parties. So I think just having a list of parliamentarians that have political experience and have either agreed without negotiating a rate with us that they will work for state parties, either pro bono or at a reduced rate. And then it would be up to the state parties to negotiate that directly with the parliamentarian. But I would also suggest, I know people hate committees, but I think we need a subcommittee that puts forth a document called Best Practices for Bylaws. It doesn't tell people what to have in their bylaws. I think that gets into the LNC putting their finger on the scale, but makes a list of things that they need to consider and make sure are covered without telling them what to do, and to give some recommendations. One example is the ability to call a special convention. Without that, Virginia would have been in big trouble. If you have just say, even forget about bad actors, because I'm going to cross fingers, we don't have anything like that. But say, God forbid, you had an entire board that was on an airplane that crashed and they all perished. And there's no provision for a special convention of any sort. The members need to be able to rescue their party in the case of extremists. So that's a best practice to have some kind of provision for that. So I would really recommend that, and I would be more than willing to come up with some language that we create a very temporary ad hoc committee that comes up with a bylaws best practices document that we can distribute to state parties, and they can use it or not. I want us to be very light touch. We can't tell state parties what's in their bylaws, but I think we can give them some advice, because we've seen a lot of problems that could have been avoided if bylaws weren't a problem. Every single issue we've seen has been because of an issue with bylaws. And the reason for that is we have good hearts as libertarians, and we think that just because someone raises their hand that they're willing to volunteer for a bylaws committee, that makes them a good bylaws committee member. It doesn't. Not any more than someone who says, I'd be more than glad to perform surgery on your brain, but has no surgical experience or expertise. So things like that will go into a best practices document. Crafting bylaws is almost like legal work. It requires a certain expertise. So I would highly recommend, it's not notice for today, but I would consider, if there's support for this, of crafting a motion on the list to have a very time-limited best practices committee to craft a document for LNC approval to send out to states.
I will, I think that's important. I want to support it. I will work with you on it, even make it ad hoc.
Mhm.
But I want to remind everybody, and this is relevant to our next agenda item, that if you're already on committees and you're not able to meet the commitments you're already signed up for, please don't stretch yourself thin again by jumping on another committee and having things fail. But I'm hopeful that we have some other people in the party who are parliamentarians and senior members of the party with lots of experience, that they'd be willing to be on a committee like this. And Mr. Watkins, if you wouldn't mind getting with me and the executive director this week to chat about putting it sort of like in the timeline for staff to work on, maybe getting a list of parliamentarians to put somewhere on the website.
Sure, I already have the list.
Okay.
And I've talked to them on the phone. This has just been a while ago, so we might need to follow up with them. But all of
Yeah.
them have had experience with political parties, and some of them specifically kind of with the issues that we've been having.
Okay.
So
Great. Yeah, let's follow up with them, and then we'll get with staff on getting it on the website. We're probably not going to be able to get it on the website in the next month, but
Sure.
we'll still get it up.
Cool.
All right. Any other questions on this agenda item, which I appreciate so much?
Madam Chair, this is somewhat related. You may disagree, and I know people think that you and I tend to agree on everything, but anyone who saw our chats would see that we don't. We just learned to disagree agreeably, which I thoroughly enjoy. I totally echo your sentiment that if you can't meet a committee obligation, please don't volunteer for a committee. But I would also caution the opposite. Don't assume what someone else's abilities are. I'm on a lot of committees. I say no to a lot of things as well. So let's just not be careful to turn down qualified people because we think they're overburdened. I think the libertarian way is to allow people to assess their own life. But that being said, if you're on a committee and you're not meeting your obligations, I would encourage you to resign. It's not fair to force this committee to remove anybody. It's not fair to your colleagues. And there is no shame in saying my life has changed or this isn't for me. There's absolutely no shame in that. I haven't done it nationally, but believe it or not, I've resigned from committees on the state level when it just turned out that it wasn't working out or something happened in my life.
Thank you so much, Madam Secretary. Okay, let's hop to the next agenda item, which is APRC membership. Speaking of which, APRC is a confidential committee. This is a committee. What is the time threshold right now, Madam Secretary? Refresh my memory. Is it 3 hours? Oh, you're muted.
It is 4 hours.
It's 4 hours.
Yeah. If you'll permit me a rant that I think you'll enjoy.
Yes.
It is 4 hours, but that doesn't mean you should take 4 hours. My average response time is 10 minutes. I've been doing this committee since 2016, and that's always been my average response time. This is not a committee for everybody. If you don't live attached to your phone and can respond right away, you shouldn't be on this committee. Now, you don't have to respond, but then you're making staff wait 4 hours, and that's not fair to staff. So I think 10 minutes is probably me being overly autistic. Even though the deadline is 4 hours, I would say if you can't reliably respond within an hour, you probably shouldn't be on this committee. My opinion as chair of the committee.
So I agree. And we have a handful of committee members who are working, they're right on top of it. And I really appreciate that. That's not the case with everyone. I would love if you feel that this is not a commitment, because I can go through and I've already counted the votes with Karen and Carlos about how quickly people are able to respond. If anybody would like to just pop off this committee, I would really appreciate it. We have a vacancy right now, which is Ms. Eiler. vacancy when she resigned. This is an LNC members only committee. I am inclined to, after this meeting, move to amend the policy manual so that I can reinstate her, because she works 30 hours a week minimum for everything website related, content related for the party. She's always on her phone. She's extremely responsive. It's a frustrating thing for me when I see things go up on APRC that are time sensitive and could help us fundraise, and they don't get full approval, and then they have to wait 4 hours, and then it's like we kind of miss like the best time to send it out. So just things to keep in mind. Mr. Nana?
How many items per day need approval? And what is
One,
the form of
two.
notification
It's an
that you
email.
receive? It's an email? Okay.
One or two a day. It's an email.
If you would permit me, Madam Chair, just as I've been on this committee forever, our load right now is extremely light. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just a different time period. We used to send out a lot of mail because everything, it's a long story. And we did a website revamp where we had to approve every single website page.
And
So
that's
compared-
coming.
Yeah,
That's
compared to
coming.
past terms, though, right now it's pretty light. It's about an email every other day, or at most an email a day, sometimes 2 emails a day. You read it, you're not there to judge whether you like the email. You're there to judge whether it conflicts with our bylaws, conflicts with our platform, or is detrimental to the image of the party. That is it. You're not there to rewrite it. You're not there to be an editor. You're not there to do anything else other than to make sure we're not harming the party by violating our policy manual, bylaws, platform, or hurting the image of the party. It's not difficult. It really isn't. And all you have to say is approve. Or if you see a problem, disapprove because it violates platform plank X. That's it. It's not a hard committee. You just have to be tied to your phone. And when you see APRC, you're ready to read it, boom, respond, move on with your day. It takes you 2 seconds.
Thank you, Ms. Harlows. Mr. Melagon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that I would support keeping Ms. Eiler on there, and I look forward to that motion. I mean, you're talking about response time, and the secretary made mention about 10 minutes being too long. I don't think I've ever had an issue with Ms. Eiler replying in probably like 30 seconds to a minute. As chair of California, she does a lot here. She works on a couple of committees here, and I've never had an issue with her response time. She's incredibly responsible. As you said, works 30 plus hours a week on a variety of items. So I would very much support that motion. I would hope that my colleagues would agree.
Thank you, Mr. Malagon. Next, we have Mr. Ford.
Is there a way, Madam Chairman, to craft that motion so that we can vote on that tonight?
Oh, sure. We can just do it in an email motion real quick.
Okay, I would certainly second that, and so as to retain Ms. Eiler's participation.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ford. All right, we have our secretary and then Mr. Blankenship.
I'm somewhat concerned for future LNCs. This is dealing with staff. If we're going to allow a non-LNC member on the committee, I would like the motion to be a little bit more narrow for the policy manual, to have
Agreed.
it at the discretion of the party chair. That this would have to be something like the party chair would have disapproval, like if because if something like this got out where, there was some kind of staff admonishment, I'm not saying it happens on this LNC, and the party was legally liable, the ultimate buck stops with the chair. So because this is a liability issue, I have no problem with saying that non-LNC members can be appointed with like the chair having veto power or something like that.
I would honestly even put it at that this expires at the end of my term, and then the person has to sign an NDA. But I need us to keep things going right now.
Yep.
And I need us to be getting our fundraising appeals out right away. So that is really my intention with this. And it's someone who's already been on the committee and is doing work for us too. So
Yeah, I fully support Ms. Eiler. I was just thinking of the future. I could see. where
Totally
this-
agree. Totally agree. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Blankenship.
Madam Chair, I like your suggestion, having this expire at the end of the term, and again, fully endorse Ms. Eiler as well.
Great. I'm just going to say, if you guys want to craft a motion offline tonight, go for it. Mr. Hagopian.
Yeah, I just want to give us I guess, a word of caution. I don't think that it's smart to make motions that expire at the end of our term. I think that I would vote against such things. I think that we would vote against those things if it was other LNCs doing it. And so I just want to give a word of caution to the LNC that I don't think that's best practice at all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hagopian. Anything else on this agenda item? It sounds like there's an ice cream truck going behind me. That's fun.
Madam Chair, just to respectfully contra Mr. Hagopian's point, I actually don't think having provisional things is a non-best practice. Particularly when there's a specific situation that can be justified that you can't know will be justified in the future. I think having provisional policies sometimes is actually best practice to protect the future of the party. We're providing for the present. It's not uncommon even in bylaws to have, they're normally in the form of a proviso of some sort, but we have a need, we have someone who can fill it. We're having an issue filling it that future and past LNCs did not have an issue. So us crafting a temporary solution, I actually think is our best practice. So with all due respect, I adore Todd. So his no vote, I know if he does vote no, if I didn't convince him, will be principled. I just disagree.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Harlos, and thank you, Mr. Hagopian as well. Okay, so if there's nothing else on agenda item number 6, let's move to agenda item number 7. This is a short update for you all because I know a lot of people have been asking. In June, we are going to be rolling out affiliate links for some of our influencers.
Yes.
Okay, do we know who Nick Kerr Jones is? Because it keeps unmuting and talking. So guys, just want to remind you to stay muted if you're last time. I just want to remind you to stay muted unless you're being called on. Great. Affiliate links are going to be rolled out. I know a lot of people have been asking about that. Who's getting links in what order is confidential, stuff that staff is working on. There are some LNC members who are assisting with it. It has not been a super simple process. But it is coming and I'm really excited about that. And I hope, okay, Mr. Jacobs, please stay muted. And I hope that everybody will push those links a lot. I know that one of the other questions that people had is, can LNC members get links? And the answer to that is going to be yes. But we're going to work on that next because it does take a little bit of work. So we're going to get them out to our influencers and people who've been asking them for them and hounding us for them for a long time first. And then we're going to get them rolled out for LNC after that. Mr. Nana?
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. This is a resurrection of the program that the last board ran, where a portion of the donation would go back to the person that solicited it.
Yes.
All right. I'm not certain, but I am concerned that if we roll this out for LNC, I don't think we're allowed to take kickbacks from it.
No, we're not going to. Our links are not going to be like that. They're just going to be tracking links, trackable links to help us fundraise.
Okay, because we could do tracking links today. There's a format for it, which would require no back end work, but I got you. I understand what you're saying now.
Okay, yeah. All right, Mr. Malagone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question. Is this different than the state affiliate links? Just
yes.
Or is that okay? I just wanted to make sure. I assume so, but
different links for different purposes. It's like levels, like Kramer on Seinfeld levels. All right, so that's my short affiliate link update. If you know people who want links, the best way to handle that is to email me directly and I will work with staff. I want to reiterate, please do not promise someone that they are getting a fundraising link. Don't do that. Don't do that. Not helpful. Okay, jumping on to the next thing, it's policy manual changes to contracts. And it was noticed by Stephen Akela, but he's not here. Do we want to push this to an email motion so that he can?
I would say, Madam Chair, that I'm going to move to postpone indefinitely, which that does is kill it. However, that doesn't mean Mr. Nikela can't revive it. But he
Okay.
gave no instruction as to what he wanted to do with this. It did not go through the policy manual committee. So,
Madam,
oh, well, if Mr. Nana,
yeah, I didn't want to interrupt. Madam Secretary, could you put the language on the screen? If it is what I think it is, I think we can handle it tonight and I can explain the rationale.
it's on the screen. Are you not seeing my share?
I'm looking at it in the OneNote.
It's also
Yeah,
in the
I'm looking
OneNote.
at it. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, Mr. Nana.
Let me read it and make sure. I just want to make sure. Yes, I can explain the rationale to this. So we were concerned that we, in the past, were getting into a situation where we were hiring contractors that were doing the work of employees, and we don't want to have that happen. So this would make it clear, at least partially, the part of the motivation would make it clear that employees are employees and contractors are contractors and must be treated as such, so that we don't get in trouble with the FEC.
I think, I mean, I remember workshopping this a little bit and it's just reflecting a change that's already been made, which is that we can't put people who are contractors in charge of employees. That's my understanding. Is that your understanding, Dustin?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if this is like a duplicate of something we already, like a different place in the policy manual that we didn't catch. I just remember that's what we were trying to achieve here. And I don't know if Miss Yanuskavich is on the call, but she might be able to elaborate on it as well. She was there.
I'm going to call on her next. Ms. Yanuskavich.
Yes, the rationale for this, it is been discussed earlier in the policy manual. We cannot have director level positions that are contractors. It would violate IRS rules. You cannot, as to who is a W-2 and who is a 1099 employee, you cannot direct a contractor to do certain things. You can give them their job, but you can't tell them how to do it. Also, similarly, a contractor cannot direct other staff. So this is just to make it consistent with that. This is something that the last LNC and the last EPCC dealt with in detail, and some changes were made in our practices at that time.
Okay, if there's no objection, I'd like to hear from our executive director. If she had a question.
Oh yeah, thanks so much. I was just I had to raise my hand to say, hey, we've already updated this in our contract processes, but it sounds like both Dustin and Kathy and you are all affirming that. So sounds like this is just affirming something that's already taken place.
Yep, we are all on it, which is great. Okay.
I might, if I might ask a quick question, it sounds like what we're trying to achieve here, though, is that people don't manage other people who are contractors. Is the appropriate word, like in other organizations would be manager level. I don't know that, because it's not appropriate at any level. You know what I mean? If they're not a director.
Quite. It's contractors aren't employees and they shouldn't be treated as employees.
Okay, and maybe I'm happy to take this offline, but I think the sentiment is, hey, we don't want contractors managing other employees. And the piece of that is the fact that they're a manager. And that would also be true if they were also not a director. Does that make sense? So if they were somehow reporting to a director and they had someone beneath them, that's also not appropriate.
Ms. Yanuskevich?
Yeah, I would agree with that. There could be a couple of word changes because somebody under a director level position could also be managing staff as well.
So I think there's a really good way to handle this, and I think it's that the proposed language is fine. And the people who do the hiring and the managing need to be aware of the law and not mess it up. That's my proposal there. Contractors are contractors, strictly speaking. And we don't treat them like employees. And that may have been one of the habits of the past LNC, but we are not going to do that. That should be good. Okay.
Time is up.
All right. Does anybody want to move to extend time on this and have a vote, or do it? I believe Ms. Harlos had moved to.
Well, I didn't get a second and
Yeah,
somebody else
she-
moved it, so.
Okay, so it has been moved. I'm sorry, what was moved exactly?
The language on the screen.
And who seconded it? Who moved it and seconded it? Sorry.
It came out of EPCC, but that's not. I think you need a second.
Martin Cowan seconds.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. And do we want to take a roll call vote or just do it with no objections? Yeah, let's do a roll call vote since it's changing around contracts and policy.
Let me just.
Take your time.
Could the motion be put back up on the screen? Would that
Yeah,
be possible?
it will be. Let me just. The date today is the 4th, right?
And if everybody goes into the OneNote online.
Yeah, it is there.
Click new business. That's the red tab with previous notice. And then click over to the right top contract policy manual change. And then you can see it.
And I do have it up there on the screen, though I am going to need to switch my screen to take the roll.
Yep.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, if we're out of time on this item, do we need to?
Yes,
move
we
to-
do. We need to move to, well, no, we were. in the-
No, it
we were in the middle.
automatically goes to
Yeah,
a vote when time expires, it goes to a vote.
because it had already been moved. Yeah.
Point of privilege, sorry, there are several, I don't even want to call them members, there are accounts in this meeting that are messing with the chat.
Oh, sorry. I have not been watching.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I will take care of it. And
Yeah,
these
just
are,
boot them.
I am, and I will make sure that they're, oh,
The
looks
one,
like,
the one person that's doing it is rapidly changing their name, so just
Block. Yeah.
Dustin, I am going to make you co-host. And when you see it, boot them
sure.
Ta-da.
so I can take the roll.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cowan,
Yes, I vote yes.
Mr. Blankenship. Oh, he's not
Yeah.
here. Oh, are you here? Did I have you noted as here?
Mm-hmm.
1 second. I want to make sure. I did. Okay, sorry. My memory was going. Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Dusseldorf,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Abstain.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Gabbard, is Ms. Gabbard still present?
Checking.
Because she kept going in and out. I do not see her here.
I don't see her either. Let's
Mr.
come
Hood-
back to her.
Mr. Hagopian,
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Maligan,
I'll abstain.
am I pronouncing your name properly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nicola is not here. Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Redpath,
Yes.
Ms. Yanuskevich,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Okay, Madam Chair, it is 12. Oh, Ms. Gabbard, I just want to call on one more time. I don't think she's here, though. Okay, the Madam Chair, it's 12 yes, 0 no's, 2 express abstentions.
Okay, the motion passes. All right. Let's move on to our next agenda item, which is reallocating affiliate support budget. All right. So sorry, everyone, that I have to go here. But affiliate support committee has been working on several projects. The thing that I was most optimistic about them putting out, they've had some setbacks and it's taken some time. And I know that Jacob Bradley and the other committee members are working really hard on it, but it's not happened. And with our finances being the way they are, I think this money would be better served straight with political activism. We have Freedom Fest coming up. We have Pork Fest coming up. Working on political impact allows us to fundraise, and we have some time sensitive fundraising needs. And I think that that's the best way to use this. If they get some things together in the near future that they need money for, they can still ask for that money from the budget. It's not that they're cut off from it forever. But right now, our political activism is cut off from it. And I just don't think that's a good way for us to be operating, all things considered. So what I'm doing is moving that we take that that money that we allocated to affiliate support, I think it's GL code 7000-89, and put it back towards outreach and activism general expense, which I think is 7000-81.
Yeah. Oh, you.
Martin Cowan seconds.
That was
All
an
right.
just so y'all know, this other person that has their name currently as Miguel is an imposter, should be booted.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to find him. I know.
All right, I think I got the right one. I had to wait until because he was indistinguishable on the list. So I had to wait until they were both talking or not talking. So I think we got him.
Thank you, guys. Sorry about all of that. I appreciate everyone being patient.
Madam Chair, I relaxed some of the way I was approving because we were having such good meetings. I'm going to go back to the stricter protocols. Unfortunately, you guys are going to have to wait for me to manually approve each of your registrations because apparently there are people who are bored.
Yeah. Okay, we have a hand up. It's Mr. Ford.
Yeah, given the financial status of the party, I'm behind this. It's additional conversation would have been appreciated. I'll just let that hang out there. But given, like I said, given the financial status of the party, I think it does make good sense. I am interested, by the way, as one of the attendees at Pork Fest, and seeing specifically what the setup at Pork Fest is going to be and Freedom Fest is going to be in order to maximize, the benefit of those expenditures. We failed to collect information, or if we did, it seems to have gone into the vapor at the Rage event, and I'm be interested in hearing more specifics on exactly how we're going to maximize our presence at both those functions and what exactly our presence is going to be. Thank you.
Sure thing. We will share some Pork Fest updates online, I think, maybe this evening. Any other hands up?
Madam Chair, can you restate the budget? Because the motion, because I did not get it the first time.
It was moved to reallocate, I believe we had $10,000 from budget line, find my number again, I've written down. From affiliate support line item 7, I think the GL code number 7000-89. Back to outreach and activism general expenses 7000-81.
Thank you.
And for Pork Fest right now, we're still fleshing it out, but we have talks at our tent. We have Carla Howell, we have myself, we have our secretary, we have Mostre, we have Scott Horton, we have Jack and Foe. We're going to have some refreshments available for sale during specific hours, and we have 50 special edition t-shirts that are going to be sold. That's what we have accounted for so far. And we're going to obviously be trying to sell memberships and whatnot. But I do think that we're going to be able to make a little bit of cash there, although it's not going to be a huge fundraising event. Freedom Fest is where we're going to be courting major donors and looking to reel some cash in there. Mr. Ford?
Will the, let's take both events separately. In terms of Freedom Fest, is anyone aware of what we were actually able to raise at Freedom Fest last year and what our expectations are? And then in terms of Pork Fest, the booth attendance, that is, what approach are we going to take to data collection? I understand there's some great speakers lined up, but what are our plans, again, to avoid missed opportunities here?
Well, which missed opportunities? I mean, I can give you a lot of data. Just point me in a
Yeah, no,
give me a
in
more
other words,
specific question.
how physically will we be collecting attendance at the booth in terms of names, email addresses, phone numbers if possible, but
A staff person there for like the majority of the busy hours, and volunteers there collecting information, soliciting donations, trying to sign people up, and also getting additional information from people like, what do you want to see the party doing? You know, of these 5, you know, XYZ issues, you know, like which one are you most passionate and excited about? What would get you to donate? Like all of that, which I think is really cool. Freedom Fest. If we want to talk about the last Freedom Fest and how that went down, we're going to have to jump into executive session. I have a lot that I would love to share with you all, and do a little bit of a postmortem. So I don't think it went very well, but I'm not going to, you know, disparage anyone publicly. I am very optimistic and excited for this year's Freedom Fest. Any other questions? Okay, if there's none, I think we can go to a roll call vote when our secretary is ready.
Just give me one moment. Oh, I messed that up. Let me copy that ballot. Mr. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Bowman,
Yes.
Mr. Dessing,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
abstain.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Malagon,
Aye.
Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Redpath,
Yes.
Ms. Januskavich,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Abstain.
Is Ms. Gabbard returned? Okay, Madam Chair, it is 12 yes, 0 no, 2 express abstentions.
Okay, the motion passes. All right, let's jump to our next agenda item. Madam Secretary, were you able to find anything? Or I'm sorry, place something in the OneNote for this agenda item, because my screen is frozen right now and I can't.
No, I didn't know what you had wanted on that.
Okay, so what I wanted was the original strategic plan that we committed to. So we're moving along pretty quickly. Why don't we like stand at ease for 2 minutes while we dig up some documents? And if anybody needs to go to the bathroom, now would be a good time.
Okay, we had two versions. We had the public version and
Yeah.
so I'm gonna need to try to find both of them, send the,
We can do just the public version for now. I think that's fine.
okay, I'm pretty sure it's in my, but I need to stop screen sharing for a moment, but we're standing at ease for a few moments, so.
Yeah, let's stand at
Yeah.
ease for a couple minutes.
Just a quick question for anyone who can answer it. Was the other version wasn't sent by email, right? It was just a public version. The one that that was sent by the vice chair, the strategy.
I think that was the public version.
That was the public version, right? Okay, I just wanted to confirm. Nothing else was sent, right?
No.
Okay.
I hear a crying baby.
That's not a nice way to talk about Mr. Duque. I'm just gonna say.
Oh.
I have the amended swap, but I don't think it's the public version.
It's not the public version. All right. I pulled up an additional document. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with what I've got.
If you want
Well,
to email
you-
it to me, I can get it into the OneNote.
Yep. Oh, your baby crying. Okay, there we go. Okay, Madam Secretary, when you're ready, if you don't mind, I will screen share on this one.
Okay, let me, and I think you should already be able to do that, and I will
Yeah.
get the document you just sent me into the OneNote.
Okay. Where is it? All right. A handful of people have asked, like, what's our strategy? What's our vision? What are we doing? I think that most of us ran on a pretty coherent strategy. Like, we were all really in alignment on what we were doing. What do we think the national party does? Like, from the perspective, doesn't matter if you're a hardcore pro-civi or if you're not, we all want to provide to some varying degree data resources to state affiliates. We want to support them. We want to maintain ballot access across the country. We want to support the Libertarian presidential candidate. We think that's important. The national LP engages with the media too. We want to educate people and we want to get people elected. I don't think any of that has changed. I don't think any of our priorities in the overarching way have changed at all. I think we also care very much about local elections. Most of the people on this LNC think that those are really critical and important, especially those of you who were in blue states, like Mr. Malagone and I during the COVID lockdowns. Like, we saw the value of living somewhere where you could have someone local stand up to your dictatorial governor and say, not today, Satan. And I think that's still really important. I think that we all recognize the value of grassroots campaigns, whether it's at the local level or whether it's a grassroots movement to support the Libertarian presidential candidate. And I know that we all agree that our presidential candidate should be energizing our base and getting people rallied up and excited to the point where they want to stick around after the presidential election cycle. I don't think any of that has changed. Something that our treasurer and I talked about a little bit, and I think this is a good thing to check in on with all of you, is what is our activity cycle over a 4-year period? Right now we're in an off year, which is this little yellow guy down at the bottom right. I think it's important that we focus on policy this year, which is what we've already seen everybody in our state affiliates doing with Defend the Guard legislation, with call-in campaigns. That's been really incredible. We've made an impact. Other organizations have seen us do that and they appreciate it. Like we're making a name for ourselves. I think what we need to be doing more of right now is training candidates and managers. And that's definitely something that we could be focusing on. It's certainly also something we could be fundraising for, because I know that people care about it and they value it, and our candidates need it as well. The presidential year, obviously we've got to really focus on that. We've got to go all in on ballot access. We've got to make sure that we get that candidate on all 50 states ballots. And internally, we want to grow our membership. We want to re-engage past volunteers. We want members who've expired and disappeared over a 3-year period to re-up their membership and their commitment to us. Midterms, we got to run candidates in the midterms, right? We got to train people, and we should be building on our institutional memory, which is something that's been a little bit shaky for us. And to that extent, that's something that I'd like to spearhead, seeing a little bit of more continuity on. I know we have a lot of things going on. And midterms, we want to recapture expired memberships. Now, I don't know how much effort went into that at the end of last year, because I know that our staff was extremely focused on the migration to the point of, I was very frustrated with it. But it was what we committed to do. So it's not, like I can't be mad at them. I could be frustrated at the situation, but not mad. So that's how I see things, with input from our treasurer and with input from other people who are interested in policy. It's like, where can we fit it in a responsible way? I think it's the off year. We have a little over 300 elected libertarians in the United States right now, and those numbers go up and down all the time when we have kind of like funky years that people get elected or that their term expires, people quit or they join the party. It's hard to know the exact number at any given moment. We always find 1 or 2 who never got in touch with us. It's just their voter registration and they're not active with the party. I would love to see us run, the same number of candidates in the next election cycle, but increase the amount of people we get elected so that we're concentrating our resources better. I know a lot of people have a different vision for that, and they want to see us run just tons of candidates. That's one area where I differ. I think it's better to run a few less and concentrate your resources, because I think we have a better shot, and then we don't burn out our volunteers. That's a topic of discussion. I think that we would also, it would really help us if we start doing some research on the number of races that were uncontested in 2020 and start trying to target those. The challenge with a lot of this, once we get really technical in our strategy, is that with our state affiliates, we don't get to boss people around. We don't get to tell them what to do. We need people to buy in on it, because they share this vision with us, because they want to advance liberty in the same way. And because, because they think it's a good idea. That data cost, by the way, is, the name of the particular thing isn't on there because that's not a good thing to discuss in a public meeting. But that's the cost of a particular thing that a lot of people have expressed interest in purchasing, that would get a lot of data support for our candidates. So yeah, that's it. It's just that many pages. Madam Secretary?
Sorry, I was on mute. Each state is so different, but just something I wanted to bring up in agreement with you is on these unchallenged races. In Colorado, and I'm sure in each state, they just call it something different. There are these super local bureaucracies called metro taxing districts. I'm sure they exist in other states. I started researching those. Nearly every race is uncontested or nobody volunteers for it. And somebody who's got elected just appoints all their friends. Once I started looking at those in Colorado, we've just got 2 Colorado libertarians on 2 of them. And we're just massively focusing on those. And I'm sure there are equivalents in each state. They're not sexy positions, but what's great about them is they can abolish themselves, and nothing better than abolishing a taxing district.
Mhm. Anybody else have any questions? Does anybody disagree with like a big chunk of what I just showed? Or does anybody say, oh no, like, that's totally wrong, or, like I didn't run on that? Mr. Duque.
Thank you, Angela. I actually don't disagree with pretty much everything you presented. I wholeheartedly agree. I think that this is, if anything, my comments are on top of everything you presented. A desire to really keep this top of mind when it comes to how we are utilizing our meeting time, our volunteer time, and our staff time. I think that a lot of what you pointed out are goals of ours hinge on us being able to grow the organization, both in terms, not just in attracting more members and volunteers, but also building our staff. And as we all know here and have been discussing at length, more of our time has been spent putting out fires that I believe are preventable than actually doing the activities that our members want to be doing: activism, recruiting. So I just was, really thinking hard about this topic leading up to this discussion, and wrote up a big long email, as I'm apt to doing, that I sent to our fellow LNC members, because I've been trying to hash out thoughts on what are the real priorities. I mean, it was pretty clear. The members that turned out in force in Reno wanted the things you pointed out: focusing on local candidates, focusing on issue coalitions, focusing on just fruitful activities. And the more time we spend not on those things, the more we, rather than to attract, we repel talent and members and donors. So what more do I have to add on that? I think we just really need to be conscious of how scarce the time and resources are of our members and volunteers. And we have to be the ones that model how we focus our time. The LNC, and how LP National communicates about what we're doing, I think it really has an effect on our affiliates and members' ability to focus on the same things. They need our help. They need for us to help cast a compelling vision, keep people on task, and just, safeguard our resources. When I think about what the key priorities of libertarians are nationwide, or really worldwide, just based on my observation, the key priorities and life goals libertarians have are to succeed in their lives, in their careers, in their health. They're raising families. They're working very hard. They have a genuine desire to benefit their communities. And they really, by and large, what I hear so many people say, I don't think this is just my personal bias. I hear this from everyone. They want to spend less time on the internet in general. The time that they do want to spend on the internet, they want it to be more rewarding and more fruitful. But in general, to reduce their time spent on the internet engaging in complaining and or meetings that don't move the needle and don't achieve more freedom for them. They want to spend more time in person in their real lives with like-minded people. And they want to be focused on activities that make them more free. Libertarians, so many libertarians want to get land. They want to do homesteading. Again, raising families. Like, these are things that are extremely time consuming. And if our party activities revolve around things that really take their time away from that, then they're not going to be super motivated to stick around here and give more of their time and their money. All of our activities have to help our libertarians with their life goals and not detract. And I mean, that what I'm getting at here is that our political success is going to be downstream from individual libertarians' success. And that's also how we're going to affect the culture, is through libertarians being successful and properly focusing their activity and succeeding and being leaders in their communities. So we have to improve our organization, empower our staff. We have to leverage data in a better way. We need to communicate very specifically about what libertarians are setting out to do and keep everybody on task. Work is the currency of the party. It used to be that work is the currency of the caucus. A lot of people said that who were involved in the Mises caucus. We want for that to be the attitude in the whole LP, is that work is the currency of the Libertarian Party. So I'll leave it at that. You know, that summarizes the email, I think, that I sent. I want us to focus on events. Big national events are really good. And I think that our affiliates and members could also do with more help organizing local events, because even small local events with lower levels of attendance than the big national events, you know, even getting like 15, 20 libertarians in a room locally is massive energy. That's what Washington has experienced time and time again in the last few years with our local events. They're very well attended. It's the biggest, you know, times when we recruit new members, when we, you know, bring in donations, is through local events, and national could be supporting that in tandem with recruiting local candidates. Sorry for the background noise, y'all. I'll leave it at that. You know, events, local, face to face, building community. These are the things that I hear from all libertarians that they want. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Let's hear from Mr. Malagone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just kind of want to piggyback off what you said, what the Secretary said, and what Mr. Duque said a little bit. I mean, I agreed with everything you said, primarily with it's okay to run fewer candidates for certain positions and focus our efforts on other people. I mean, we saw that here in California. So my predecessor didn't look for someone to run for the governor's race against Gavin Newsom. And it's because we allocated so much of our effort behind, we kind of backed the wrong horse during the recall election, in my opinion. A lot of people allocated their time, their efforts to someone that didn't take the governor's recall race seriously. And that burns a lot of people out. So there was really nowhere to go after that happened. And as the Secretary said, there are a lot of positions in certain counties that are open, that are unsexy positions, right? So, but that's where we affect change. We need to get people into these smaller roles, into these committees, and not running two campaigns at the same time for two completely different things, something local and something statewide. And that's where that kind of effort needs to, it's okay if people want to run, they want to be on the ballot. Here in California, we have that happen a lot, but we don't allocate, and they don't even ask for support or money or volunteers. They kind of just do it to be on the ballot. It's become sort of a tradition, for better or for worse, but we don't need to allocate our resources or efforts toward that, because as you said, it does really bog down volunteers. People are less likely to give money. And it's just really not good all the way around. So we really need to focus on pulling back on some stuff that isn't really winnable, and that we don't really have the capacity to support in some sort of way. And that comes with the professionalism, right? Once we get the professionalism, people will come to us and are looking. Our Southern Area Coordinator, for instance, in San Diego, has done a really good job kind of pulling people from other parties and kind of pitching libertarianism and flipping that script for them, right? From D's or R's to L's. And that's another focus that we probably need to look at a little bit harder. But That's all I'll say on the matter, but I do agree with that, and I think that that's probably the way to go.
A point of inquiry, please.
Yes.
Yeah, how much time is on this topic and how much is left?
Mr. Watkins?
3 minutes left, 20 minutes total.
Okay, after Mr. Malagone, I believe, I think we have Mr. Rufo.
I'm going to read the room and assume people kind of want to move on from this topic. So I was really just going to try and paint a different perspective for those that might be disagreeing with some who aren't speaking up or listening that are disagreeing, but I'll move on. It's not a problem.
Okay. Mr. Redpath?
Well, since there are 3 minutes left, I will speak up. I think that the Libertarian Party should run as many non-embarrassing, and we may have differing opinions on that, but as many non-embarrassing candidates for public office at all levels of government as possible. I originally became a member in 1984, really became an activist in 86 in Virginia, and since then I've lived in Virginia and Illinois. And basically, the Virginia and Illinois parties have been beggars for candidates. And if somebody comes in and says, I want to run for this office, great. You know, assuming they pass muster, you want to run for this office, great. I think the Libertarian Party has been, over the past half century, clearly the most successful minor party in the United States. Our staying power, our longevity has been really incredible in the context of great things. And I think we need to run for offices we can win. We need to speak out on the great issues of the day, because Lord knows the R's and D's stink. And but the real thing that we need to focus on more, I think, is trying to change the electoral system to some sort of to have ranked choice voting, to have, but particularly proportional representation for legislatures. That is what is really going to take. That proportional representation is really what it's going to take to make big L libertarians electable at all levels of government. And I think over the years there has been insufficient work for that, and that's what we're really going to need, I think, in the long run, to be electable at all levels of government on a widespread basis.
Thank you, Mr. Redpath. Madam Secretary?
Yeah, I actually wish Mr. Rufo would have spoken, because I also have a bit of an alternative perspective, and I'm wondering if we disagree. What I'm hearing a little bit, and that's okay, I'm used to being a minority voice, is a bit of mission creep as to what the goal or purpose of the National Party is. Purpose of the National Party is not to dictate the state parties what kinds of candidates they run. If they want to run local candidates, they run local candidates. If they want to focus on whatever, that's just not our job. Our bylaws tell our job. It's to put on a national convention, to do things that require economies of scale to support our local affiliates. But our local affiliates make these decisions. We don't. We certainly can encourage them. And I think the way that we do things as a national party is to get out a consistent libertarian message, which we have excelled at, as far as I'm concerned. I know some people disagree, and that's fine. They can be wrong. We've put out an excellent message, and that is what supports our local affiliates. I respectfully disagree with my colleague, Mr. Duque. We are not here to make sure or worry about people's jobs or their homesteading or things like that. We are here to make sure that the law gets out of their way and they can do what they want. We are a political party first and foremost. And it's so weird for me to be saying that, because I'm usually the one arguing that we're not just about running candidates, but I think we're going too far in the other direction. We are here to advance libertarian philosophy, but we're also a political party. And it's to run candidates, not improve people's health directly, not improve their work lives directly. Other groups are there for that. We are a political party. And you do politics by running candidates. Candidates can be educational candidates. There needs to be a balance an absolute balance of both. And I'm going to agree with Mr. Redpath. Mr. Redpath and I have been beating this drum for a while. The National Party needs to focus on a couple winnable issues, or issues that are actually going to make things winnable for state parties. And the first and foremost of those is electoral
We're out of
reform.
time.
Madam Chair, I'd move to extend their hands up.
Okay, for how long?
Minutes, for 10 minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to extend time on this agenda item for 10 minutes. Any objections? Going once, going twice? Okay, time is extended for 10 minutes.
And I'm almost done. We need to, we burn out activists because we don't have wins. So the National Party needs to focus on things that can win. Electoral reform. We need to be putting way more effort on electoral reform and on issues that are ready to just blow over, that are about to die completely, like eliminating the death penalty. That's just ready to die everywhere. We need to pick a couple issues, anti-war, whatever it is, and focus on those. We can't be everything to everybody. That is up to the state parties. And what I shared with you guys in chat is what my county party was doing. That's where the lifeblood of the party is, and the county parties and the state parties. The national party is not that important. I know we don't like to hear that as LNC members, but people should care more about who their state chair is than who the national chair is, or the national secretary, or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Up next, we have Mr. Ford.
Madam Chair, I'm going to take a moment or two to both compliment Mr. Redpath and our secretary's positions. First of all, I would point out that most of the responsibilities described by Mr. Decay actually already exist in the hands of the regional representatives, who a big part of the job. And by the way, that's why regional representatives report to their state chairs, not in most cases, not to the national party. So a lot of that activity is coordinated on a regional basis. To Mr. Redpath's point, for example, we've been actively advocating for and lobbying for ranked choice voting across New England. I know I've testified in 3 different states in the last 6 months, in person and remotely, about that issue, representing the Region 8 position on that. When it comes to actually getting House debate on Defend the Guard, that's happening in multiple states in the Northeast now already. And that was advanced by state parties working in coordination in some cases with their regional representative. Working on mutual aid societies, working on local anti-war movement, all of that, all the politicking. And in moments like this, I'll call it the fun part about this job is done at the regional level. To back up Ms. Harlow's position, these days, more than ever, this year, more than ever, the state parties should focus on their politicking, because quite frankly, the messaging shifts dramatically, even between states within a region, different priorities, different responses, and that should always be the bailiwick of the state chairs, all right, to decide which issues they're going to emphasize and sometimes which shade of gray they're going to emphasize. Now, with regard to the national parties, I was about to say the primary focus of the national party for the balance of our term should be twofold: ballot access, I'm going to call it threefold: ballot access, financial stability. And did I say ballot access and ballot access? At this point in time, in my humble opinion, the entire focus of this party should be righting the ship financially and getting enough money so that the excellent ballot access committee, we are blessed now both to have Mr. Redpath working in conjunction with Mr. Nana. You talk about institutional knowledge, the two of them, just astonishing to watch in person. That should be our focus. So respectfully, with Mr. Decay and those who want to see this vision and this overarching participation from the national party, I think particularly given the events of this year, all the exogenous events we've had to react to, all the foolishness we've had to react to from outside of the LNC and outside of the national party, has really challenged us. So let's, as I think the old cliche is, let's stick to our knitting and focus on ballot access and raising money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Next, we have Mr. Rufo.
Okay. I don't necessarily disagree with anything that Karen Ann, Pat, or Mr. Redpath said. I agree with them, and I don't think that the strategy that we've been discussing really conflicts with that. I don't think, I think people are talking past each other, quite honestly. But regardless, I do think empowering the states to be more active in running as many candidates as possible and giving them the assistance they need to do that is the most important thing. But I do think it's important for the national party to get involved and help them figure those things out, right? It's important if the national party believes, hey, we have a roadmap for what we believe is success for the national party overall. And if your state chooses to implement it, here's the work we can do for you to help you get through this roadmap, right? Like this is how
5 minutes.
we believe that, you know, if you have, we'd rather see success as 12 local level candidates elected rather than 1% in a statewide campaign. And here's how you can find the most effective and useful ways to use your resource in your state. I think that's something the national party should be providing to state affiliates and local affiliates to make it easier for them to do that, right? Because if you have 12 local people elected, you're going to have way more impact on policy. You're going to build legitimacy in the party, and you're going to allow yourself to eventually win those statewide campaigns. And I believe that's something we all can agree on. And I don't think it's wrong for the national party to come up with a way and a process for us to be able to help local affiliates do that, should they choose to do that. So, you know, running statewide candidates is great. We can talk about all the advertising campaigns we want to talk about. So many people talk about advertising campaigns on the statewide level, but that's like asking somebody to sue to repeal the NFA when you have 11 different assault weapon bans to worry about. We got to get rid of the assault weapon bans before you can attack the NFA, right? Like you're not gonna take out the NFA this week, but you could beat the Illinois assault weapon ban, and that'll make it that'll give you a little bit more precedence to work on. That'll give you a little bit more legitimacy in your argument to be able to get rid of the NFA. That's the way I look at it. And I think we should be providing that. We have the resources to help and provide that for them, because not all the state affiliates have that. And that's my opinion on it. I think that everybody's ideas here can work together because we all want the exact same thing. So I think there's no reason that these two concepts are foreign from each other. And then if anything, I think everyone's talking past each other.
Thank you, Mr. Rufo. So one thing that I'm going to do towards the end of June, and I'll try to give everybody a 1 week heads up as a courtesy, but I am going to have an open Zoom meeting with state chairs and political directors. And of course, the LNC is invited so that we can talk about policy and how we can start working on policy together at the national and state level in a way that's going to build political capital for our candidates and help them in the future, and also to help us all fundraise. And then
2.5 minutes.
Let's jump back to Mr. Ford.
Sorry, Mike Rufo, respectfully, and I feel your heart in this, and I feel your desire to do this. At this point in time, quite frankly, a great deal of the political expertise, and I'm talking about hands-on, boots on the ground political expertise, quite honestly exists at the state and local level. Quite frankly, there's a lot of things we as a national organization could probably learn from the states. So again, given the challenges that we've faced over the last couple of years with being accused improperly, I might add, of being hyper involved in state affairs, I think we have to tread very lightly about us trying to, even the slightest appearance of trying to impose some type of political vision. It frankly is too different on a state by state basis. And again, I don't know that the expertise exists. So I think, you know, in terms of resources, given the challenges we have, it's just more important, I think, at this point, to generate ballot access and let the ballot access experts have the resources they need to solve a principal problem for major states across the nation. Us trying to focus on developing policy at the state level, yikes.
Okay, up next we have Mr. Redpath.
I agree with a lot of what Mr. Ford just said. I just wanted to say again, when in Virginia and Illinois since the mid 80s, people came forward with ideas of offices they wanted to run for. I haven't really experienced people being directable, so to speak, to run for certain offices. They come forward already with an idea of what they want to run for. I'd also say, again, if they want to run for local office, great. We need people running for local office. I don't agree with the bottom-up theory of party building. I don't think that winning local offices will necessarily lead to victories at higher level offices.
30
And
seconds.
I present as evidence the 45th president of the United States, who had never run for public office before, never served in the military, first time for everything, I guess. Anyway, that's my thought.
Thank you, Mr. Redpath. Okay, time has expired. There's one thing left on our agenda for tonight.
Move to adjourn.
Ah, there we go. Does it have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn and no one go anywhere because coming up, we've got another meeting. Any objections to adjournment? Going once, going twice? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 9:07 p.m. Eastern Time. We have an executive committee meeting that is going to follow immediately afterwards to vote on some proposals by the Ballot Access Committee. Madam Secretary, do you want to just keep it all in one recording?
Yeah, and I'll separate it out or just title it on YouTube as both, I think. Because I
I'm
don't think
fine.
any of this is going to be in executive session. And just for the record, I don't think Ms. Gabbard has come back. So just to amend the attendance, everyone from the executive committee, no, Mr. Nikela is not present. So everyone but Mr. Nikela is here. And Ms. Gabbard is now absent from the LNC.
Got it. Okay, so I'm going to, let's see here. I'm going to call us to order in our executive committee meeting at 9:08 p.m. And Madam Secretary, if you don't mind, can you do roll call for us?
I think we're streaming and recording.
We're supposed to be, it's not executive session. Executive committee is different from executive session.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to go back up to the initial roll call here to just reconfirm it and add Ms.
Yeah,
Gabbard.
we'll just go through it quickly.
Yes, so Ms. McCardle,
Here.
Mr. Watkins,
Here.
Mr. Hagopian.
Here.
I am present. We note Mr. Nikela as absent. Mr. Blankenship,
Still here.
Mr. Bowen,
I am here.
Mr. Rufo.
I'm here.
Thank you. Ms. Yanuskavich,
Here.
Mr. Banner, Mr. Dassing,
Here.
Mr. Duque,
Here.
Mr. Ford, Mr. Ford,
Pat Ford, are you here? He's still on the call. Somebody want to send him a message and then we'll come back to him.
okay. And I don't think Ms. Gabbard is here. Mr. Maligan,
Present.
Mr. Nana,
If it would let me unmute, I'm here.
okay. And I know Mr. Tunevich is not here. Mr. Clark is not here. Mr. Cowan.
Present.
I see Mr. Ford, you're unmuted. You're here. I see you. Thank you. Mr. Hall is not present. Mr. Hirsch,
Here.
Mr. Hyman,
I'm here.
Ms. Jones.
Here.
I don't think Mr. Pankey came in, Mr. Redpath,
Yes.
and I still show Ms. Houston and Mr. Brown. So it's all the same as earlier, except for the absence of Ms. Gabbard, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we need to do public comment again?
I think Nathan wanted to say something, so.
Okay. Hands up.
I was just going to say something between meetings, but it's fine.
Okay. All right, I'm pulling up my motion language for this meeting. Madam Secretary, do you have a way to get it on the screen?
Yeah, give me one moment and I'll share my screen. I thought I was again, but apparently not. Let's see.
So what?
So in green is the motion as you crafted it, in highlighted yellow is as it came out of the ballot access committee.
Got it. Oh, it's so tiny on my screen. Okay, the ballot access committee recommends a total encumbrance of $21,000 towards Arkansas's ballot access drive. This will be split into 3 payments, each totaling $7,000. Ballot access committee recommends allocating up to $4,000 for ballot access litigation costs in Tennessee. Tennessee and the LNC will each be responsible for 50% of the total costs. So I'm gonna make this motion and then I'm gonna speak to it. And I want us to pay attention to a couple of details here. So I'm gonna move that the LNC commit $21,000 towards Arkansas's ballot access drive to be split into 3 payments, each totaling $7,000, and up to $4,000 for ballot access litigation costs in Tennessee. Tennessee and the LNC will be responsible for 50% of the total costs. Now, I think this is important. First of all, does it have a second?
Second.
From the
Second.
Okay, great. I think this is important. I want there to be another conversation with the Tennessee State Chair before we do this, because I've been told he's not like 100% on board or thinking that it's good, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. So I just want that to happen. Mr. Nana?
Yeah, Mr. Redpath can correct me if my memory does not serve me right, but he was in the meeting.
I know.
He was there. He agreed to this exact language in a separate meeting with myself, Mr. Redpath, Mr. Winger, and his vice chair, Mr. Darnell. So unless he's changed his mind, this is the language that he suggested that we all agreed on.
Okay, do a quick check-in. I know I'm not doubting anything you're saying. I'm just giving you what I've heard separately. So I want to make sure that the commitment is there and that it's very serious and that they think that, you know, that it's worthwhile and it's going to help their party. So that is, I'm just putting that out there because I think it's the responsible thing for me to do. Mr. Hagopian.
Yeah, just on that, they had not voted on it by the time that we had met with ballot access. So I brought up the same concern, and that's why we had phrased it in a way that we are providing matching funds. That way, if they do go forward, we don't pay any money.
There you go. And that's all I want to reiterate too, is that I'm totally down to do this. You know, I want to make sure that we don't commit to something and then they're like, you know what, actually, I don't think this is going to be a good investment for us. And then we're like, oh, this is so awkward because we said we would. That's my only concern. Otherwise, I'm fully in support of doing this. I want to support Tennessee. Mr. Ford?
Just quickly, so we all understand it, what is the disbursement approach to both of these situations this time around? Will the money be dispersed up front? Are there bogeys that they have to achieve? How will that work?
Mr. Nana?
So we did not set any specific timetable or any specific metrics that they would have to meet. As Mr. Hagopian just alluded to in the Tennessee situation, it's up to 4,000. So if they decide they don't want to do this, it essentially, you know, this motion means nothing. In the terms of Arkansas, it's 3 payments, which could be decided. We could decide the payment schedule right now. We could decide the payment schedule as we go. We wanted to leave it open-ended for you guys, but you know, the reason why we wanted payments, at least in Arkansas, to be split up is so that the Arkansas party was not on the hook for their portion of it, which they agreed to, I believe, at 14,000 all at one time, so that they could adequately disperse funds from their end without owing petitioners a bunch of money all at one time. We wanted to make sure that this was spread out enough for them. They expressed a desire to lengthen the process a little bit.
Can I ask Mr. Nano or Mr. Redpath, whoever knows, like, who are they using for petitioners?
So they've got a couple of local folks. They might be working with Mr. Evans, who has worked with us before.
Okay.
Not sure if
No.
they're for sure working with him or not.
No, they're not.
Okay.
That fell through.
Well,
Okay.
last time I talked to Mr. Paco, I was under the understanding that they might be doing $4 per signature with him, but if that has since changed, I mean, it doesn't really matter to me who they hire, to be completely honest with you.
$4 per signature. It does matter to me a little bit based on some of the things that happened in New York. I'm not nitpicking it or anything that you're doing, but I want us all to be as aware as possible so that we don't end up in any situations where we have egg on our face or are in, awkward situations like what happened last time.
Mr.
Sure.
Paco is here.
Yes.
Oh, well, if it's all right with everyone else, is it okay if I ask Mr. Paco for a little bit of input on his signature gatherers and how he feels about them and all that jazz?
Please.
Go right ahead, Mr. Paco. Can you tell us a little bit about your signature gatherer plans?
Sure. We have one local guy named Glenn Schwartz who will bring in about 100 signatures a week. He's been on the case for a couple of weeks now. We have a woman locally who worked with us last time, Mildred Almeida, and she's going to be signing a contract this week. Now, as for the remainder, both Lee Evans and Andy Jacobs have expressed an interest in collecting signatures at $4 each. So we're kind of open right now to negotiate allocations of shares of that.
Okay, great. I mean, that all sounds really good. That sounds like you've got professional people who we all have had experience with as well. So I hope everyone feels really good about that as opposed to feeling nervous. Any other thoughts on this before we vote on it? Any other discussion? All right. If there's none, let's go to a vote, Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
Sorry. I meant to get my hand in there. I
Yep.
think that we need to amend this to include the GL codes. Is that accurate, Madam Secretary?
You're right.
Yeah, that probably is, technically necessary.
Especially since this motion requires two different GL codes.
Yes.
So,
if you be so
apologize
kind.
to jump in there. So we need to add for Arkansas, it comes out of GL code 7000-84. And I'm also going to add just a little language to Arkansas, but let's do the GL codes first. And then for Tennessee, it would be 7000-85. And then going back to the Arkansas language, I believe our agreement is that we'll drop $7,000 each time that they're willing to drop $7,000. So we should add in there that it's matching funds as well.
Well, they're doing 14.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I apologize.
It could be 7,000 immediately and then 7,000 each subsequent time.
At Dustin. That's fine. Yep.
Andrew Watkins Zoom just kicked him out. So we're gonna wait a second.
I just got back in.
Oh, there you
are. So yes, Madam Secretary, if you could say provide 7,000 immediately and 7,000 in two subsequent payments of matching payments.
Okay, 1 second. Let me try to get that. $7,000 to be provided immediately. And how did we word that?
And two additional $7,000 matching payments.
I know this is like a really long run-on sentence, but I think we all know what it says.
I apologize for the delay on that, but we'll have to vote on that amendment and then vote on the motion.
Before we go to a vote, I have a couple of questions. Not that I'm not in favor of my own motion, which I am. Are we fundraising for ballot access actively right now? Is there anything else we need to be aware of?
Well, I mean, North Dakota is coming up.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
Can I, one second, let me sort through with hand raises. Actually, I'm gonna ask our executive director if she can give me an update, if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah,
Where we're
absolutely. So as far as our most recently published numbers, we've raised a little over $11,000 for ballot access so far. And with everything coming in this year, let me just kind of get a quick napkin math. We're looking at about $13,000 raised year to date. Again, those are unofficial numbers. We always publish the formal numbers whenever we do the monthly reports. So that's where we stand right now in terms of funds raised. And as a reminder, we spend money in these GL codes once we've raised it. We have another big ballot access push that's forthcoming due to some new things unlocked in the CRM, which will look like a direct mail push, in addition to ongoing efforts all throughout the year. Let me know if I can answer anything in more specifics from there.
I think that's plenty for me. Thank you very much, Miss Houston. Okay. All right, Mr. Nana.
Not that I don't expect we could raise it, but I would be hesitant to tie this to for sure raising it through
Sure.
ballot access itself, especially for the litigation.
That's fine. Yeah, no, that's noted. I just wanted to make sure everybody was like kind of keeping their eye on the what we're raising versus what we're spending. All right. Did this get seconded, the amendment?
Second.
There we go. All right, great. If there's no further discussion, let's go to a vote on it.
We can do the amendment without objection, Madam Chair, if.
Sure. Do we have any objections to the amendment? Can everyone see what's on the screen? Is everyone familiar with what was just amended?
I can describe it, and remember, this is just the executive committee. It was to add the GL codes, and it was to add additional language after this will be split into 3 payments, each totaling $7,000. The added language is with $7,000 to be provided immediately and 2 additional matching payments.
Okay, great. All right, if there's no objection. Going once, going twice. Okay, hearing no objection, the amendment passes. Now let's go to the main motion as amended. And for this one, we should do a roll call vote.
Yes, and I'm getting the template ready. Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian,
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nikhil is not present. Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Ms. Yanuskavich,
Yes.
Madam Chair, why didn't I add that up? Anyway, it is 5-0-0.
I'm gonna go ahead and vote yes.
Okay, 1 second. That code, that formula got weird. So that makes it 6-0-0.
Okay, there we go. Motion passes. All right, that's the only thing on the agenda for this executive committee meeting. I think we finished this meeting faster than we have for a few months in a row. So thank you, everyone. There's one thing.
Madam Chair.
Madam Secretary, and then Mr. Redpath.
I was wondering if we could have closing public comment.
Okay, Mr. Redpath.
Point of personal privilege before I get there. It's my understanding that birthday wishes are in order.
I think we can do that in public comment.
Okay.
Happy birthday to whoever's birthday it is. Okay, let's go right ahead. Mr. Nathan Madden.
Hello, everyone. Nathan Madden, Arizona, State 48. I just want to say real quick, because this was kind of addressed in the chat, but I also want to make sure that it's part of the record, that as a member of the party, I am entitled to public comment. I am entitled to use public comment how I see fit within the 2 minutes, and I will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. Up next, we have our secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just want to just kind of briefly that comment from Mr. Madden, like there's no entitlement to public comment. Just in general, it's just something I encourage the LNC always to do, but it's not in our bylaws. I just wanted to get that out there, though I always encourage public comment. But what I wanted to say actually was to encourage people to come to the bylaws meetings. Our bylaws need a lot of work. I thank Mr. Brown, our parliamentarian, for being at most of the meetings. I think he'll attest to the very hard work of the bylaws committee, but I do encourage LNC members to come and see what we are doing to streamline the processes of this party, because some of them are really stuck in the 1980s. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Watkins.
Yes, just wanted to say I've been helping Angela go around looking for volunteers for Pork Fest. So if anybody on the call right now is going or knows of anybody that's going that would like to volunteer at the LP booth, please get with me or Angela. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paco.
I just wanted to say thank you for the vote. Thank you for your support, and we'll get the job done.
You are welcome. Mr. Mulligan.
Well, I don't know whose birthday it is today, but I just saw Mr. Duque put that it's his 33rd birthday on June 15th. So I will wish him an early birthday and suggest that if anyone wants to make a birthday donation to the No Agenda show on his behalf, you would be his new favorite person. So I encourage you all to do that.
Mr. Redpath.
Well, I was actually referring to Madam Chair.
I forgot it's my birthday.
Coming up on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Also,
Yeah,
an early belated birthday to Madam Chair. That's what I meant initially. I just messed up. So yeah, I'm going with that. That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it.
Thanks. I was in the zone and forgot about my birthday, even though I had a party last night. All right. Well, thank you guys. There's one thing left on the agenda.
I'd move to adjourn.
Fantastic. Do we
Second.
have yeehaw? Fantastic. It's been moved and yeehawed. Any objections to adjournment? Going once, going twice, hearing none. We are adjourned at 9:30 p.m. Thank you all so much. I'll see you on the next meeting.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.